Loud, Drunk, and Angry. We are back with a very special guest this week. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. Right now, it's my favorite album of 2018. None other than Tim Narducci of the Watchers. Tim, how the hell you doing?
I'm doing great, Rob. Great, 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 man. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, it was. I had a blast at the Maryland Doom Festival.
That's a fun one, huh?
Yeah, and you think of it, it was an incredibly diverse crowd. Everybody was just so cool. You mentioned doom metal to people, and you might think it's just a bunch of hairy dudes, but it was just all races, creeds, genders, everybody, and I didn't encounter a shithead at all. Everybody was super cool.
Yeah, yeah. This is the second year that we played that, and that's why we went back. It's super versatile, though, I think, with the bands, which I think is great. It all kind of got a common thread of rock and roll and heavy metal in there, but everybody kind of does their own spin-off, and it's cool, man. It's a great gathering.
And the one thing that impressed me was my buddy and I were talking on the way down. We're like, how are they going to adhere to that schedule? Like everybody's going to just play one back line. No, everybody had pretty much their own back lines, and it ran like clockwork the whole weekend.
Yeah, no, they run a tight ship. We barely made it on stage on that one, by the way. That's we were looking for. We had like loose cymbal stands, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was literally down to like the second, I think, at our start time. By the time we got everything up on there and got the amps working, and but yeah, man, that was a great show. That was a lot of fun.
Well, let's talk about the new record. I've been playing the living hell out of it. Uh, kind of just let's start off with the album cover. I love the cover. It's just cool as hell.
Thank you. Well, the album cover. That that's funny because I don't know. I woke up one morning, just kind of hopped on Facebook, having some coffee, and my artist buddy Kieran Kieran Bagshi, he did the inner sleeve for the Sabbath Highway EP. But he'll go through like on Facebook or Instagram and post new pieces of work that he does, and that particular piece came up, and I was like, oh, that's it, because of the mood of the record and the songs that we were recording and writing and getting together. To me, it seemed like a visual that, you know, I grew up with vinyl. I'm sure you did too, Rob.
Yeah.
And over and look at it, and the art, all that stuff just ties in with the music. It's just a whole different experience. And that art immediately grabbed me. I wrote to him. I think he had put it up, and it was up for maybe 5 minutes. And I said, dude, rip that down. I want it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and I purchased that, I think, maybe 10 months out before we got all the final packaging done. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so I sat on that for a while, and we did a little tweaking to it, a little modification. Put the logo up in it's got the frame around it, the gold frame. We just made a couple little cool tweaks like that, and it was pretty much a done deal. But just for whatever reason, that piece of art that he came up with really spoke to me, and the music that we, got together for the record. And I think it's a perfect fit, actually. I couldn't imagine a different album cover for this record.
Now, speaking of, we grew up on albums. That's kind of a lost art is album sequencing. How do you approach? Okay, we've got these songs. How are we going to sequence these now?
You know, that usually happens, I think, as the mixing process kind of comes down to a close for me. Um, Usually end up juggling a few different, running orders, so to speak. And I don't know. It's just like the ebb and flow of the record, man. I love records like Led Zeppelin 4, where if you moved one of those songs around, I don't think it would be the same record.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And albums like that are for whatever reason they work, and certain running orders work. I don't know how to really pinpoint it, but it just feels right, I guess. And it's got to be a roller coaster ride too. So for me, that's usually the approach. It's got to kind of take you through peaks and valleys and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's an emotional ride. And I think the thing also is I think the music industry went through a phase where, I don't know if you see it as much, but remember when people were putting out records with like 15 songs on them?
Right. Yes.
And I hated that. I absolutely fucking hated that because it was just too much, man. I remember, you put on Ride the Lightning or Rain and Blood, and it's perfect.
Right.
It didn't need anything else. It was like, okay, this is 32 minutes long. It doesn't need another song on there.
I remember when CDs first came out, and you'd see that on a lot. Now with over 60 minutes of music, and yeah, it would just be, most of them were throwaway cuts anyhow. There's a lot to be said for those old Van Halen records that were like 29, 31 minutes long.
Yeah. No, again, that falls back into that running order, and that falls back into just the flow of the album. Sometimes a record, it needs to be a little longer if that's what it calls for. But to put a record out just to stack a bunch of extra songs on there, I don't care for that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I tell you what, let's jump into the album. Let's talk about the opening track, Black Abyss.
Okay. Well, Black Abyss. Black Abyss is a bit of a ambiguous effort. That song, to me, really lyrically where it was coming from was probably more kind of like a foothold into addiction. I know that sounds kind of typical or sounds kind of like a, whatever, normal topic, but you can for me, it was just taking the lyric and just kind of seeing how dark I could get with the lyric without being too, I wanted it open for interpretation, and I think it has that when you listen to it. I think it can apply to a few different things. But I think mainly with Black Abyss, I think that song is kind of huddled around, the idea of, being stuck and lost in this heavy addiction, be it drugs or whatever, whatever somebody's suffering from. It's kind of it for that tune.
Okay.
There's not a lot of super in depth with it. It's a bit ambiguous, but that's for the listener to kind of interpret and get a feel for.
Alien Lust. Now, I love the riffs on this record, and this is one that really jumps out at me.
Awesome.
How do you guys, you sit down in the studio and, how does something like Alien Lust come about?
Well, that song, first and foremost, I gotta commend and applaud my guitar player, Jeremy Epp. He is an outstanding musician, all around great dude, and one hell of a songwriter and player. But he sent me that track on my birthday, believe it or not. It was a demo, and I think that was kind of early on in the songwriting process, because how we normally go about it, I'll sit down with the guitar as well, and write riffs basically on my iPhone. So the whole Kirk Hammett story, how he lost his phone.
Oh, that would just make me sick.
I've got about 80. I think I got about 80 ideas on my phone right now, so I hope I don't lose.
He should really, one of those companies that the backup companies should hire him to be a spokesman.
Yeah, or get a backup hard drive or something. Jesus. But so basically, just sit down, have a beer, smoke a bowl, and just riff out. You know what I mean? Sometimes usually when I do a new album cycle, I'll go and buy a new guitar, just to kind of get some inspiration. And so sit down and noodle and come up with some riffs and not sit on them too long, and then kind of go back and revisit them and listen, and see if it sticks. If there's anything that's unique about the riff that kind of inspires a lyric idea or a song title or anything like that. So I'll kind of sit and do that. And then what Jeremy and I would do is I would drive out to his place. We were working, I think, on Sunday afternoons or something like that. So go out and sit with him for about 6 hours. He has a home studio. I've got a recording studio out in Livermore, California, and he's got like a little home studio with like a V drum kit. And his guitar stuff's all ready to go. Everything's mic'd up. So we just sit down and demo. So I'd go, here, check this riff out. He'd like, yeah, cool. And he'd play the drums, come up with a pattern and just kind of a basic skeleton. Like, it needs another part here. So I'd hand him the guitar, and he would come up with something. So we would go back and forth like that. And that was that's how we write. That's how we work. And it's really, it's an awesome experience, because we don't sit and labor over songs at all. If it doesn't stick, or if it seems like it's a little weird or whatever, we just say, and move on to the next thing. But back to Alien Lust, that song was sent to me on my birthday. Awesome birthday present, right? So then they're listening to the structure of the song, and Jeremy wrote that whole piece by himself. He recorded this. He records these badass demos for me. He plays the drums on them. He's a phenomenal drummer too. So he lays everything down, bass, guitars, leads, and just leaves me my open canvas to write lyrics and vocals when he sends me a track like that. So I got that for my birthday, and I believe I had lyrics and melodies written for that thing in about a half hour. Just sitting there listening to it on my my Bluetooth boombox. That simple.
Wow.
And yeah, so Alien Lust. So that song's a little tongue-in-cheek. Okay, so the green girl on Star Trek, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the idea. So it's this young boy's lust for the alien girl, because I mean, we all grew up and watched that, right? I mean, we had Charlie's Angels, and we had cool shows like that. But yeah, Alien Lust was basically that's the idea of that, is this boy's infatuation with this girl.
That shade of green is like my favorite color, and it's all because of that alien chick on Star Trek.
Well, there you go. Perfect. So that song's got it's got some fun lyrics in it too. It's meant to be a little bit tongue in cheek and a little campy and fun, and but heavy at the same time too. So, but yeah, that's the idea with that one there.
take your love away like a suicide. There is nothing you can say. Please don't take her love from me. Like a suicide. Let it lost. 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 Let it
Oklahoma Black Magic.
Okay, that song, title-wise, was originally based around the Baphomet statue that was put up in Oklahoma in protest against the Ten Commandments statue that got ripped down. The irony in it. That was the song title, and then lyrically it became more focused on Jane Mansfield and her obsession with power and being a bigger actress, because she was always kind of a B actress.
Right.
And, hooking up with Anton LaVey. You see those pictures of her and Anton. And I basically wrote the verses and all that stuff off of just looking at that photo. And just trying to have that inspire me. And then as you get into the bridge of the song, where it's kind of that Merciful Fate kind of jam out there, I went and did some research on basically like satanic rituals and stuff like that, so I could try and paint a picture of it.
Okay.
So you get into the lyric. That is probably lyrically, I think, probably the most detailed song on that on Black Abyss. And I'm pretty proud of that one. That was probably took the longest to write lyrically because it has so much detail. But that's probably one of my more favorite tracks on that album for sure.
Now, a track I really dig, and you had mentioned before about Jeremy's guitar playing, and I can attest seeing live just screams and howls. What a great guitarist. Buzzard.
Yes. Well, Buzzard. There's a couple songs on this record that deal with some past people in my life that I played music with, and let's just say that that song's that's another ambiguous one, but that one was definitely inspired by a particular person. I won't name any names. And we didn't have such a good relationship after our old band broke up. So you can kind of get the drift with it. I mean, it's again another ambiguous track, but it works. You know, you could kind of tie it to anything that means something to you, and I think that works. The guitar playing on that is Jeremy absolutely rips on that particular track. But that song was a song that I did a demo of. It's probably back in 2015 before we even started the Watcher. So that was a song that was kind of hanging around on my hard drive, and played it for the guys. And we actually, I believe we played that song when we were doing the we were doing the Sabbath Highway EP, but we didn't record it for that particular set of songs. So we got to revisit it for this record, and it turned out great. Especially after Max Norman got his hands on it and made it sound really badass. So I'm glad you like that one. I like that one too.
Let's talk Starfire. Now, you had mentioned Max Norman earlier. How did that all come together with him mixing the record?
Well, Max, again, Facebook. He came through on my feed somehow. I don't remember looking for him, but he came through on my feed. I'm, oh shit, I wonder, so I friend requested him, whatnot, we were buddies, whatever. And I reached out to our manager JJ Garcia down in LA, and I just said, hey dude, can you do me a favor and just ask him if he does mixing, for bands that are maybe on independent labels or whatever, whatnot. Because some of these guys, it's like, I mean, he did fucking Ozzy, right?
Right.
I mean, it's some of the most memorable records that, in my opinion, that have gone down in history. So I just, on a whim, just asked my manager to reach out to him, and he got right back in touch with him. In fact, we were still tracking Black Abyss, and I don't even know if I had all the vocals or the lyrics written yet. But we went out to do we did that tour. It was in 2017, back to the East Coast and back to do. And he wanted to hear some music, and we didn't have enough time to get it together for him before we had to bail. So we sent him, it was Alien Lust actually, sent him that track when we got home. I finally got around to finishing it, and he was totally into it, totally on board, and we just kind of went from there. It took probably 4 months to mix that record, though, because he's a pretty busy dude, and it's not like we're super high up on the totem pole for him.
Okay.
But it was an amazing experience, man. Getting to ask him all those crazy Ozzy questions and Randy Rhoads questions was just, I was tickled to death, man. It was so freaking cool. And to even talk to him on the phone, I remember he called and he thought I was I produced the record, but he didn't know that I sang for the band. He didn't know that it was, that was my too. He said, well, you might want to tell the singer, try this, more of a thing, It's like, I'm like, well, I am the singer. And he's like, oh, okay. So then he proceeds to tell me how to sing this particular chorus. And you know what? I actually didn't end up doing it because I was so scrambled for time that he took it upon himself. If you listen to that chorus, it has these delay throws, and that was all him. That was kind of like Flying High Again. Like if you listen to Flying High Again, it's got delay because Ozzy just says Flying High Again and again. That's all the delay work that that Max did. So he just applied that idea and sent it back, and I was like, that's it. I don't have to sing it. You did it. Thank you. You did it for me, But yeah, getting to work with Max, and the record was really, it's got probably 3 different mixes on it if you really listen closely to it. Black Abyss and Seven to Nets are, they're pretty deep and rich and lush. There's a lot of verb and delays and whatnot. Well, we were running into a little bit of a problem with a couple of the other faster tracks where that didn't apply to it. It just made it too mushy, or it just sounded weird. So I'm trying to approach him with, kid gloves, and because we got to a point where it was, we're communicating via text, and text can be misinterpreted.
Exactly. You can't, a sense of humor doesn't come off well, or it just seems flat. Yeah. Right.
So I wrote him back, and the snare drum just sounded like an 80s snare drum to me. You know what I mean? It had that, it was too much, especially for like what we do. I think there's a fine line that, you get too much of that gated verb on there. It's just like, it doesn't sound, it sounds pretty dated, but he so he sent me a mix, and I and I texted him back, and I said the issue with the snare drum, and I get a reply back, what issue? Right. I'm like, oh, fuck,
Oh,
man.
shit.
I'm in trouble. So I said, no issue. Let me rephrase that for you. So I had to go into full detail with him and explain that I didn't think that we had the right sound yet. And it was really cool, man, because he's like, let me kind of step away. Because when you get into mixing a record, you get kind of a flow going, and you have these certain applications, and you get a sound. So what I kind of threw a monkey wrench at him to try and come up with this tighter sound. And so I don't know, we got back in touch probably after a week, and he's like, I think I got it. So it was actually a Yes song, Owner of a Lonely Heart, where the snare drum and the whole drum sound is just much tighter, and it's more contained, and it's tighter, and it's more of a kind of a tighter room. And he applied that, and I'm like, okay, put that on that song. There was probably like 3 or 4 songs. I was like, just applied that drum sound to that, and we got it. So we've got like 3 different kind of styles of mixes if you really put your ear to that record, which is fun. You know? Gives that record a little more depth and detail.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's an all-around amazing cat, no ego, just super cool, super generous, and he was fair, and what a great guy. I would love to do a full record with him from the beginning, let him produce it, let him mix it, let him just go in and be his, go in there and be his guinea pig, really. Would be awesome. Did you ever check out the band Cornbread and I were in called White Witch Canyon? I don't know if you've ever checked that record out.
I just saw some stuff like online.
Okay. So we had a band with this guy named Eric Hagen, and actually I played drums in the band and sang, and buddy Eric played guitar and sang, and we would trade off songs, and we had Cornbread on bass, so it was a 3-piece, a power trio. But we had, that song was actually written by myself and Eric Hagen, who was in White Witch Canyon. So that song was one that was sitting around that we never got to record. And when we were putting together the Watchers, that was a song just to jam, just to get in the room because we needed material, and it just kind of stuck. So fuck it, we'll record it, and it turned out great.
Nice.
But made it on the record, yeah. And that song was written, man, I'm going to say probably 8 years ago, maybe a little longer.
Oh, so, wow.
It's kind of another hidden track that got to see the light of day, which I'm glad it did.
While we were asleep,
let's talk People of the Gun, and I want to bring up something that we were talking about in Maryland was, you kind of balance out. You also have a ZZ Top tribute band, and now you've got the Black Crowes thing going on.
Yes. So what do you want to talk about first? Those are it's a lot of work. I'm thinking about it. I go, why did we start another phone?
The one thing that intrigued me that you said is that, when we're doing that and then working on our music, you have to be very cognizant of, you don't want that to become, too heavily influenced your song by one of those groups.
Right. Well, what's fun about it, and a lot of the reason that I enjoy doing it is, you take the Black Crowes, for instance, and that's all pretty much open tune guitars. It's not a standard tune guitar, so it's an open chord when you just strum it. So, and there's voicings and trippy shit all over the place that it's a big inspiration to me as a writer, because it makes you look at it entirely differently. It's like, wow, I would have never approached it that way, but fuck, that's killer, and it just opens your mind, man. It's a great thing. It really is. I think studying other people's music you're a fool not to.
Right.
I'm not saying rip people off, make it your own.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's really great. But back to People of the Gun, that song's really I think a reflection on society today. Just how most people have a knee-jerk reaction, and people's tolerance, and look at social media, how everybody's at each other's throats, and everybody's right, and my opinion's right, yours is wrong, and people act fast, and people drive like assholes, especially that's with Challenger drivers. And, no, you know what I mean? I mean, people shoot you. I mean,
yeah.
It's society's changed so much from, I'm pushing 48, and it was so different for me growing up. I feel bad for these kids today. They got so much shit to worry about.
Oh yeah.
But I think a lot of it has to do with the internet and how fast everything moves. It's changed a lot of the way people think. And how they react to things.
Yeah, and interact with one another face to face.
Yeah, go say hi to your neighbor, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Talk to people and go to shows, and it's so much different than what if you sit there on Facebook all fucking day long. I mean, you become a zombie and you're numb.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that song definitely to me is a reflection of that. It just where our society is kind of ended up, sucks, but hopefully it'll change.
I tell my kids all the time, man, I am so glad that the things I did in my 20s, there wasn't someone with a phone recording everything.
Hell no, we'd be in big trouble.
Oh,
man.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, all the shit we got away with. Oh my god. But yeah, for us, going to concerts, it was hanging out with your buddies, having beer keg parties, setting the band up, playing, just interacting with each other. I think it's a lost art.
Satan's choir, funeral pyre.
Suffer Fool. I like this. This is kind of like just I almost want to say maybe just like a mini breather, a nice little kind of change up.
Yes, yes. Suffer Fool is another personal song, and it's written ambiguously as well, to where people can apply it to however they would apply it in their lives. That particular song, but yeah, I came up with the main riff for that, the chorus. Sat down with Jeremy, and the really cool thing about that song is Jeremy had this whole classical piece written, and we were sitting there, and I'm just like, dude, it needs something, it needs something unique like that. I'm like, got anything? He's like, as a matter of fact, I do. So yeah, he breaks this whole piece out that he wrote, and it worked perfectly. And I love the fact that it's classical. And, the cool part about it too is when I mixed it, he did an edit, and he said, as intro ramps up, right?
Mm-hmm.
That originally wasn't there. That song always started with down on the on the one, and he sent that to us and created that for us. So
oh, nice.
I thought so awesome, because it bookended the song as the song fades out like that, right? But you get the full ending. I love that song. I love how that turned out, and that was Max had a great ear on that, and really he made it happen. I couldn't imagine that song without that on it. I mean, live we don't do that, but it's so cool. It's such an album piece.
Seven Tenets. You guys did a music video for it. I really dug the video.
Thank you. Thank you. That song's kind of a complicated one, but it's really the idea of it is it gets back into the religious aspect of seven tenets, or with the Satanic Church again. I don't know why I was was fascinated with it, but if you read the seven tenets and you put it up against the 10 Commandments, it's kind of trippy, because you look at what it's saying, and it's pretty freaking heavy, man. I mean, if you look at, because Satanic Church is obviously something that is frowned upon in most societies. It's evil. It's this. It's that. But if you kind of dig into it and look at it, and I'm not promoting it. I'm not a Satanist or anything like that. I just like to do research and look at the ironies and things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you look at like the difference. Like one's telling you to show compassion to people, and rather than telling you what to do, it's I just suggest people just kind of look at it and judge for themselves. And you take the idea of that, and I thought the idea of having somebody being drug off to a stoning, right? In certain religions, I won't get into it, but yeah, they stone people.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's where the idea of that came. And then our video director, Mike Sloat, he came up with the brilliant ending where the abductors end up, killing each other. It's actually really fucking heavy, the way it turned out, and it can mean a lot of different things, man. It's again another ambiguous type of track. But if people haven't seen it, be sure to check it out. It's pretty heavy, and that riff just soars, man. I don't know. I really dig that song. That song's a really awesome tune.
where can people go to find you guys out there on the internets?
Go to the good old Facebook, Band of Watchers. We have all of our stuff on there. We have stuff on YouTube, The Watchers. You can find us on there as well. We got videos from the Sabbath Highway EP. We got live footage and stuff for people to check out that aren't familiar. And so yeah, come visit us.
Yeah,
And,
I'll give big props on the Facebook. Like, you guys had a listening party around album release time where people could listen to it ahead of time. Usually when you guys play live, somebody's there doing a Facebook Live video. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah, and yeah, we just do it, man. We just go live, and it's like Hail Mary, man. Let's hope we're in key and in tune, and let's go for it.
Before we go, I do want to talk about the Black Crowes project. I saw your guys' set list online, and man, that's a nice set list.
Hey, thank you. It's that's a pretty. We haven't even got that deep yet, man, to be honest with you, Rob. I mean, there's so many fucking great songs by those guys that we kind of rounded it out. I don't know, was it like 15 songs on there, 15, 18, something like that. Just more of the stuff people are familiar with, because we're just kind of introducing the band, and we'll definitely be diving into the way deeper tracks, man. I want to do Evil Eye. That's like one of my fucking favorites, man. It's so good. There's so many, Rob. I can't even tell. But yeah, we just we started that thing back in. I put that band together back in November last year, and we just been rehearsing for probably 7 months or so. We just did our first couple of shows end of July, and we did one in August, and they both were great. They're Black Crowes fans are fanatical, man. They love it. They love it. It's so much fun because everybody just gets into it and sings along, and it's a blast, man.
Now, I got to tell you, the next time you have an idea for a cover band, I've got one. Simple, easy. You'll be able to, no time at all. Jellyfish.
Oh yeah, that's simple. I got a story for you.
Okay.
The Manning brothers.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a little insight. I grew up literally half a block away from them.
Oh, nice.
In Pleasanton, and I remember before that band, Andy Sturmer played in. I think it was the Blue Darts. They were a local Pleasanton band. I grew up in Pleasanton, California, and but we played metal, man. And my band guys lived down on one side of the block, and then you had the Mannings that lived up on this other side of the block, and it was like a big kind of circle kind of drive, 2 different streets. And I remember walking by, and you can hear those dudes like jamming, yes, like to a fucking T, dude. God knows how old they were, probably like 16 or something.
Wow.
And yeah, I remember when Belly Button came out, and yeah, we all went to school with those guys and knew those guys, and I love Belly Button. I thought Spilled Milk was it's great, maybe just a little overproduced. I think you can on that, right?
I'm flip-flopped. I think Belly Button's great. I still go back to Spilt Milk all the time.
I know all my friends, like even Cornbread, that's his record too. But yeah, man, I mean, just wow. Yeah, that's a simple one.
Not a lot of layers at all there.
Well, didn't Andy? They toured with those guys, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, Jellyfish toured with them, and I think Andy did some studio work with them on Amorica.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he played some percussion and whatnot, and I do know that Black Crowes covered, or they used to cover, Bed Spring Kiss.
Nice.
Yeah. So I know a little bit about that band.
That's really cool.
Absolutely great music, though, man. It's, really great dudes. Chris Manning works. He lives up in Marin, San Rafael area, but he's a studio guy as well. Up there, he's an engineer, producer. I actually had him do a mix for me for one of my clients. I do studio stuff as well and produce, but yeah, so we're all intertwined. It's kind of cool, man. It's kind of a trip. Did I tell you that I met fucking Billy Duffy a week ago?
I saw that you posted a picture. Yeah, how was that?
Oh my god, dude, the Colt. Well, I'm friends with Eric from Stone Temple Pilots. I mentioned that a little bit earlier about the Spiral Arms record. He was a producer on that record, the one that hasn't come out. And so we went to go see him. It was up in Murphy's, which is kind of up in the mountains a little bit, kind of away from us, from the Bay Area. It's probably about an hour or 2 hours away out east of the Bay Area. And so we went to go visit Eric out there and catch those guys, Jeff, their new singer, and everything. By the way, they were unbelievable. They were so good. Yeah, and the fucking Colt, man. So the Colt played before them, so I was hanging out with Eric. Completely missed Bush, thank God. And then, so yeah, I got to hang out with Eric for a little bit, and then go down and watch the Colt play for a little bit. And yeah, Billy was just standing there, and I got to give him a copy of Black Abyss too. So I was total fanboyed out, man. I mean, the Colt is a big fucking deal for me. I saw Guns N' Roses open for those guys in '87 at the Warfield Theater and at the Santa Cruz Civic Center, back-to-back nights. Before Welcome to the Jungle broke, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So it was pretty fucking awesome. So yeah, meeting that dude, and he was super cool. I think that's the thing that's the scariest thing, Rob, is when you go to meet some of these people that you look up to and how they're going to be as human beings,
Right.
They're going to be a total dickwad, or if they're going to be cool, And we lucked out because Billy was cool as fuck.
The whole theme of tonight is songs that just kick you in the ass and get you moving. So pick a song that really just kicks your ass. It can be any genre that just gets you pumped up.
Oh man, any artist, any
yeah, any whatever. Just if you one off the top of your head, oh yeah, this is my go-to.
Go-to for ass kicking. Why don't you? Are you gonna play it?
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Play In the Clouds, man, by the Cult.